Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our very first Industry Trends webinar. Sorry for our delay of a few minutes. We were having a few technical hiccups, but the team sorted that out. Gaining a deep knowledge of customers, challenges, and needs is a great competitive advantage. That is why we at Barco Control Rooms are continuously investing in gaining this knowledge. And today we would like to share that knowledge with you. Our industry focus of today is transportation, and my dear colleague Joyce will share with you some industry trends, but also how she will explain how this market is evolving, and most importantly, where the opportunities lie for you. So let me welcome Joyce de Timmerman to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Samira. Good morning, everyone. I'm Joyce de Timmerman. I'm Segment Marketing Manager in Barco Control Rooms. And today we will have a session about industry trends within transportation. If you have any questions during the session, you can ask them in the chat, or there will be a Q&A at the end of this session. So what's the goal of this webinar? Today we will discuss transportation industry trends, challenges, and how they impact the control room. Of course, transportation is a very broad industry. In Barco Control Rooms, we divide this vertical into different sub-verticals. So first sub-vertical is aviation, airports, airlines, air traffic control. Second sub-vertical is rail and public transportation. Third sub-vertical is road transportation. And the fourth sub-vertical is waterborne transportation, such as ports and inland waterways. This is an interactive session, so I will ask you some questions to answer today via polls. So my first question to you is, in your country or region, in which sub-vertical do you see the most sales opportunities? The first poll will be launched now. Please share your answers. Okay, I see some answers coming in. Okay, thank you for your responses. So we see that most of you mentioned aviation, and second was rail and public transportation. This is in line with what was said during the Partner Summit. So we asked the same thing during our Global Partner Summit, and also there we had the same two sub-verticals listed as having the most sales opportunities. Later on, we will highlight some trends within these sub-verticals. Before I'm going to highlight these different trends in the sub-verticals, I want to ask a second question to you. What industry trends, potentially impacting control rooms, are you observing in the transportation vertical or its sub-verticals? So this is an open question. So if you have any trends in mind, please submit them via the poll. And after that, we'll deep dive into the trends we're observing in the different sub-verticals. So trends can be very high level. It's very high level industry trends. Maybe you see in the rise in the market size or digitalization or something else. Okay, I see security popping up as a trend. Indeed, we're noticing physical security, cyber security is important. Centralization, indeed, that's also a trend we're observing in some industries. We're seeing a centralization of control rooms. Digitalization, also an important trend. We have more and more smart sensors in the different sub-verticals. Okay, thank you for your responses. We would like to highlight now some industry trends we're observing when we did research into the different sub-verticals. So let's start with aviation. The first trend that we're seeing is that there's really a growth in passenger air traffic, and leisure travel is the growth engine. So we're seeing that the traffic is going back to pre-COVID levels, and in the coming years, it's expecting to rise even further. Of course, this also creates some challenges within control rooms and opportunities. So we're seeing in airports, there are a lot of capacity constraints. So airports really want to become more efficient so that they can use their capacity to the maximum. But of course, this can also lead to an increased complexity of decision making, because of course, if you want to work more efficiently, all the different stakeholders need to collaborate better together. A second trend that we're observing within this industry is that emerging technologies are being used to enhance operations. So think about AI, automation, robots. For example, we're seeing for baggages, autonomous vehicles are being used to transfer the baggages. Also, robots are being used to transport food, for example, to people within airports. So a lot of technologies are emerging. Of course, challenges are created by this in terms of data management. Also, cybersecurity is becoming more important than. So we need to be aware of that to ensure reliable operations. A third trend that we're observing here is that we want more collaboration and communication on an airport-wide level. So in the past, in airports, the control rooms were usually very siloed and not very much collaborating together. But especially in Europe, we see a trend now towards more APOCs, so airport operation centers, where we really want effective collaboration of the different stakeholders. So different people, airlines, handlers, baggage controllers are being put together in one centralized control room, so we really can collaborate more effectively. So, question to you now. Which of these aviation trends are you observing in your country or region? Are you seeing one of these three trends or not? If you see another trend emerging, please highlight us in the chat. We're very much interested in your opinions as well. I see some responses coming in. If you don't see any of these trends, please mention another trend you're seeing in the chat. Okay, I see most of you mentioned emerging technologies to enhance operations. Indeed, there's being a lot of research being done into these technologies to enhance the operations, but also to enhance sustainability of airports and so on. Thank you for your responses. Let's go to the next subvertical, rail and public transportation. First trend we're seeing here is a rising emphasis on high-speed rail. So especially in Europe, we see that high-speed rail is really rising. They want to create new tracks, also to increase the high-speed rail between countries, within countries. But of course, within control rooms, this creates challenges because they need to adapt existing infrastructure, develop new high-speed systems, which could potentially impact control rooms as well. Second trend we're observing here, same as within aviation, also here emerging technologies are being deployed and a lot of sensor-rich infrastructure is being installed. So we have autonomous trains, they're testing this, a lot of sensors are being installed on the tracks of trains and so on. Of course, in terms of challenges for control rooms, we need to combine this data of these different sources to ensure there's interoperability between these various technologies. So this is a challenge within control rooms. A third trend we're observing within rail and public transportation is that we need to modernize the infrastructure and integrate the outdated infrastructure. So we have noticed, especially the rail industry is a very conservative industry with quite a lot of old or outdated infrastructure. So a challenge here is that we need to integrate these legacy systems and aged infrastructure with new and modern technologies, for example, the sensor-rich infrastructure. So same question to you here. Are there any of these rail and public transportation trends that you are observing in your country or region? If there is another trend you're observing, please mention it in the chat. We're very much interested in your knowledge as well. I see some responses coming in. Lots of you mentioned the modernizing and outdated infrastructure. Indeed, by talking to partners in both US, EMEA, APAC, we notice indeed this is a worldwide challenge. Okay, thank you for your responses. So let's continue with the next subvertical, which is road transportation, such as traffic management centers. A trend here are intelligent transport systems. So we're seeing a rise of these systems. So these are, for example, vehicles that can communicate to one another, vehicles communicating to sensors or to infrastructure, and so on. Of course, this creates more data sources, so data management becomes an important challenge within the control room, and we need to integrate the legacy systems as well as also here, there's some outdated infrastructure, and of course, cybersecurity becomes more important to ensure reliable operations as these systems are all becoming interconnected. Second trends we're noticing is urbanization. So a lot of people are moving closer to cities or within cities. But of course, this creates some capacity constraints within cities with a lot of traffic jams and so on. But of course, these overburdened transportation systems, they really increase the need for scalable traffic systems. So if traffic continues to rise in cities, also traffic control rooms need to be scalable. A third trend that we're observing is the integration of crowdsourced tools. For example, in some traffic control rooms, they are really incorporating Waze data to see where traffic jams are or where accidents happened. So, of course, they do this to optimize the situational awareness and response times by integrating these crowdsourced data. Okay, same question to you now. Which of these road transportation trends are you observing in your country or region? If you're seeing any other trend, please mention it in the chat. Okay, I see responses coming in. Indeed, digitalization, intelligent transport systems is a trend we're observing across a lot of countries. Also, the other two trends are being seen in some regions. So this is in line with what we found in our research. Okay, fourth and last subvertical is waterborne transportation. So think about ports, inland waterways, sea transportation, and so on. Trends here, same here, digitalization, smart ports are really a trend. So in smart ports, we have drone integration, we have smart sensors to look at, for example, water quality. Also for supply chains, these smart sensors are being used. But of course, integrating these diverse digital systems creates some challenges because we need to become more efficient within the control room. And also, of course, these digitalization, these sensors can improve our real-time decision making. A second trend we're observing is geopolitical complexities. So geopolitics are very important nowadays because they can really influence port operations, trade routes, trade volumes, and this increases the need for scalable systems. Geopolitical complexities can happen quite often or quite suddenly. And of course, we need to be able to scale our control room if this happens. Third trend we're observing here is zero emissions and climate resilience. So on the one hand, we want the ships to be more sustainable, but on the other hand, the climate, the rise of the climate also has an impact on the rising sea levels, for example, extreme weather conditions, which can really impact the port operations because we need smarter, more resilient infrastructure also to predict that this is going to happen. So last time I'm asking this question, which of these waterborne transportation trends are you observing in your country or region? If there's another trend that's not highlighted here, please mention it in the chat. Okay, we see the same trend here as in the other sub-verticals, digitalization, smart ports. So really having more sensors, being more digitalized. We see that's a very large trend within the transportation industry. Okay, thank you very much for your responses. We really appreciate your input. Of course, next to trends, we also searched challenges. Before going deeper into the pain points and challenges we observed within these industries or within the operators or dispatchers in these industries, I want to ask to you, what are the biggest challenges your transportation customers are facing today? So we'll have an open question now. If there are any challenges you think your customers are facing, it can be in the entire transportation vertical or within a certain sub-vertical. We're very much interested in your opinions. We'll highlight some challenges and pain points in the next slides after we've received your input. So think about things operators or dispatchers or control room managers have mentioned to you, IT managers have mentioned to you in previous conversations you had with them. Okay, indeed, there's a large amount of data. Indeed, we really see a data overload within transportation control rooms. Finding operators, indeed, it's some people really say it's very difficult to highlight new and especially younger operators. Multiple systems, indeed, that's also something we're seeing. There are multiple software systems within the control rooms and they want to integrate them more. Data, indeed, large amount of data, indeed. Okay, thank you very much for your responses. If you look at what we found in our research, we see that it overlaps with things you're mentioning. So if you look at customer pain points, so it can be the IT managers, control room managers, or within operator dispatchers, we see that the first one relates to security and safety. So first pain point is really cybersecurity. There's an increasing number of cyber threats, and this, of course, calls for enhanced security measures to really protect the infrastructure, protect the data. So we really see that cybersecurity is becoming more and more important within these transportation industries. Second challenge we're seeing is predictive maintenance decision-making. So we really see for infrastructure and transportation, people want to predict when something will happen with the infrastructure or when maintenance is needed. Whereas in the past, they really looked at time-based maintenance, where, for example, every year they did a check or over that period, we replace the system. Now they're really looking at condition-based maintenance, where they really want to look at the current states, the current conditions, if the infrastructure is still working in a proper way, in an efficient manner, and they want to really predict when maintenance is needed. And the third challenge we're seeing is that where in the past, these type of control rooms or now they are still more reactive. So they react when something happens, but they want to be more proactive in terms of incident management. So they want to become proactive to minimize disruptions, to shorten response times. So that's really a challenge and a trend that's going on within these industries. Second, challenges and pain points we're seeing are related to operational and financial performance. So first of all, there are a lot of regulatory challenges. So it's really hard for control rooms to keep up with local and international regulations. This can create a significant workload. It can also impact the efficiency, capacity, because they continuously have to keep up with these regulations. So that's really a challenge within this industry. A second pain point related to this are no integrated solutions. So that was also mentioned by someone in the poll, in the previous poll. So there's reliance on multiple vendors for multiple systems, multiple softwares, and so on. But all these solutions are not integrated. So this really complicates system integration. So people within these control rooms want these systems to become more integrated, but of course this increases the training needs as well. Third pain points are related to the user experience. So with this, we really mean the operators and dispatchers within these control rooms. So it was mentioned twice in the previous poll or World Cloud. There's really an overload of data. So there's an overload of information and a very complex workflow. And this, of course, increases risks of being more inefficient as an operator. Second thing we're seeing here is that within transportation, there are some conservative industries. So they are a bit hesitant to react to the rapid pace of technological change. And they are not very likely to adapt to new technologies or methods. Especially, for example, in the rail industry, we're seeing that this is a very conservative industry. Third pain point we're seeing here is that operators and dispatchers have to do a lot of repetitive and routine tasks, which can really hinder their productivity. So that's why integrating emerging technologies such as AI can really help them to be less repetitive. Fourth pain point here is that we have inconsistent systems or apps across control rooms. So we really see a trend towards more collaboration. For example, traffic control rooms want to collaborate together in different regions, but of course, all these control rooms have different systems, and these fragmented systems can create inefficiencies and inconsistencies to collaborate. So this also really is a challenge going on at the moment. So the last thing we want to share with you are the key takeaways of the Partner Summit. So in a few weeks ago, we organized a Partner Summit here at Barco, and we did the same exercise with some partners. So trends that were highlighted there by partners for rail and public transportation was that there's a trend towards more smart city solutions, outdated versus new infrastructure. There's really a growth of content. For example, cameras, sensors are really growing, which of course increases the content and data. And there's also a trend for driverless trains. In aviation, trends that were highlighted by other partners during the Partner Summit was that a lot of new airports are emerging, especially in the APAC region, and a trend towards more centralization of control. So that's what we also mentioned. There's a rise, for example, of APOCs within airports where they really want to collaborate with different stakeholders in one control room. Then for road transportation, we're seeing our partners notice trends for smart highways. They also mentioned that the carbon tax really leads to a shift to public transit. So despite we mentioning that urbanization leads to an increase in traffic in cities, they also mentioned that the carbon tax really leads to a shift to public transit because it becomes more expensive to drive a car. Also here, there's a growth of sources, for example, cameras, or also these intelligent transportation systems where vehicles can communicate to each other, to sensors, infrastructure, and so on. And then also their connectivity between control rooms is becoming more and more important within these road transportation control rooms. Then for waterborne transportation, partners mentioned the trend towards more inland goods transportation. So they really are also within the waterborne transportation industry are promoting these inland goods transportation. In some countries, they even give subsidies from the government to promote this. And also here, there's an integration of more drones in ports. So also this belongs to the trend of digitalization. Challenges that were mentioned during the partner summit within transportation is that there are varying regulations across countries, regions, so there can be very large regional differences. Challenge also, second challenge is infrastructure maintenance renewal. So we have outdated and quite a lot of old infrastructure within these industries. So the infrastructure maintenance is a challenge. There are a lot of budget variations due to the governments in different regions. So the regional differences are quite large in terms of investments. Crisis management is also a challenge. For example, terrorism, transportation industry, they need to be developed or they need to be prepared for a terrorist attack, or also, for example, in rail, some partners mentioned suicide is an issue there. So they really need to be able to handle crises. And also what you mentioned, an overload of data, a rapid increase of content was also something that was mentioned quite often by the partners during our partner summit. So that was the information we wanted to share with you today. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them or put them in the chat, and we're happy to answer them. I see no questions popping up. Okay, if there are no questions, I want to thank you all for being present. If you would have any interesting insights or want to discuss this further with us, please feel free to reach out. Or if you want to follow any other webinars we're organizing, please feel free to do so. So thanks a lot for being present and for your participation.